I was looking at potential themes for these videos, and I thought a good one would be to go from year to year. So many films come out every year, and not all of them become embedded in pop culture. I'm starting at 1980 because I have no idea. I just thought it seemed like a good year to start. I may eventually go back further, but for now, I'm gonna do 1980 and upward. So here's 5 films from 1980 you may have overlooked. The Private Eyes. The Private Eyes is a mystery comedy from director Lang Elliott. This was a pairing of 2 classic slapstick actors, Don Knotts and Tim Conway. It's about 2 bumbling detectives sent to a mansion to investigate a murder. What they find is all sorts of weird things going on, which leads to Don Knotts repeatedly making googly eyes. This was a movie I watched numerous times as a kid. It's kind of a dark premise and feels like they put 2 classic comic actors in a Hammer film. The detectives interview the staff working at the mansion, and as they get further into the case, the staff themselves start to get killed off. It's a weird duality where the characters die, but they die in this silly fashion so that it never really gets too scary. The killer even leaves behind goofy notes to taunt the detectives. I think the only genuinely scary parts are towards the end when the duo stumbles into a torture chamber. Don Knotts with his bug-eyed expressions make me laugh every time. Tim Conway plays the dumber of the two, with many of his creations that are set up for future jokes like the carrier pigeon or the alarm clock gun or whatever it was called. It's also kind of funny that the movie is supposed to be taking place in London, and yet the house they filmed it was the Morley Mansion in North Carolina. This was the final pairing of Knotts and Conway, which was sad because the two worked so well together. A classic film that's good for adults and kids. They don't make them like this anymore. The movie did get a DVD and Blu-ray release. It's not available for streaming, but it is on video on demand. Aside from some clips, it's not on YouTube. The Gong Show. There was a time when the TV show The Gong Show was a pretty big deal. It first ran on NBC from 1976 to 1978. It also ran in first-run syndication from 76 to 1980, and then returned from 1988 to 1989. It essentially was a bizarre talent show, where people wanted to see oddities over genuine ability. Someone would come out and, more often than not, showcase a very unusual talent. The judges would watch, and if any of them has had enough, they would hit the gong behind them, which would make the person stop. As the show went on, the contest elements seemed less and less important when compared to the insanity of the contestants. So they decided to make a movie about this. The Gong Show movie is a 1980 slapstick comedy from director Chuck Barris, who was the host and creator of the show. The movie follows a week in the life of Barris, how he deals with his day-to-day stuff, and of course, how he hosts the show. All sorts of crazy things happen, up to and including a guy blowing a candle out with a fart. The big attraction for the movie was that they showed the footage of singer and frequent judge on the show, J.P. Morgan, exposing her boobs while watching Jean the Dancing Machine. NBC banned her from the show after that. The movie opened on May 23rd, 1980, and it was up against this little movie that no one had ever heard of called The Empire Strikes Back. When it hit theaters, the Gong Show movie was almost universally disliked amongst critics, but was loved by a wide variety of teenagers when it hit cable. George Burns was not a fan, saying that after seeing the movie, he wanted to quit showbiz. The movie made it to VHS and was restored to Blu-ray in 2016. It's not available for streaming, it's not on YouTube, but a bunch of episodes of the show are, even a clip of the infamous Popsicle Twins incident. On a side note, seeing this again makes me want to do a dedicated video about the TV show. I'll see what I can dig up. The Exterminator, one of the more brutal revenge exploitation films of the time. The Exterminator is a 1980 vigilante action film from director James Glickenhaus. The movie is about 2 friends, Eastland and Jefferson. The 2 are doing a tour of Vietnam, and they're captured and tortured. Jefferson escapes and rescues Eastland. The movie then jumps ahead to years later in New York. Eastland stops a robbery, but gets himself in a bad situation, and again, his friend Jefferson rescues him. The gang members are then out for revenge, so they hunt Jefferson down and cripple him. Eastland snaps and goes on a death wish killing spree, shooting up the gang members that crippled his friend and then going after other city scum. The movie opened on September 10th, 1980. On a budget of $2 million, it pulled in over $5 million, making it a success. Critics hated the film. Roger Ebert, being his usual level of wrong, called the movie a sick and direct ripoff of Death Wish. While the movie was obviously taking inspiration from the mega-popular Death Wish series, it was taking more from the vetsploitation subgenre, which was mostly about Vietnam vets who couldn't reintegrate back into normal life and would either become vigilantes or mercenaries. There are quite a few of these movies out there. Due to the success, the movie spawned a sequel, The Exterminator 2, which was released in 1984. Glickenhaus didn't return for Part 2, but Mark Buntsman, a producer for Part 1, took over and directed. The sequel didn't live up to the original, only pulling in about $3.7 million domestically. The Exterminator was restored on Blu-ray by Synapse in 2011. Part 2 was released on Blu-ray by Shout Factory. Both movies are streaming on Amazon Prime and Plex. Without Warning. Not to be confused with the 1994 End of the World movie. Without Warning is a 1980 sci-fi horror movie from director Graydon Clark. It was about a group of people in a mountain town that are being picked off one by something otherworldly. They're being killed by these flying tentacle creatures, but there's something else out there. Something even worse. While escaping the creatures, two of these kids encounter Sarge, a mentally ill vet. He's the only one who believes them and tries to help them when no one else will. This is arguably the best movie from director Graydon Clark. Between the creepiness of the aliens and the foreboding atmosphere, it's a genuinely good film. When they reveal the alien at the end, that shot was ingrained into my memory. As much as I love Predator, there's no way that it wasn't inspired by this. The big reveal is that the alien is on Earth hunting humans. This was 7 years before Predator. I mean, Kevin Peter Hall, who played the Predator, played the alien in Without Warning. I heard that someone admitted Predator ripped off Without Warning, but I've never seen an official statement. Regardless, I've seen interviews with Clark, who's flattered and says how much he likes Predator and isn't really bothered. The movie has a solid cast with Martin Landau, Cameron Mitchell, Jack Palance, Neville Brand, and a 24-year-old unknown David Caruso. The creature effects were created by future Oscar winner Greg Canham, and the alien's head was designed by future Oscar winner Rick Baker. Without Warning hit theaters on September 19th, 1980. The movie made it to VHS, but I don't believe it ever made to DVD. I had to watch a muddy VHS rip for ages until it was restored by Shout Factory in 2014. The movie's available to stream on Amazon Prime, Fubo, Plex, and a few other places. It's also on YouTube. Popeye. Popeye the cartoon is a bona fide classic. It was way before my time, but I used to watch it in syndication once in a while. The movie's a musical comedy from director Robert Altman. The movie's about Popeye, a sailor who arrives in a small fishing village in search of his missing father. He falls in love with Olive Oyl, which upsets Olive's bully boyfriend, Brutus. Say what you will about the film, but this has some of the best casting ever for a movie. Robin Williams is Popeye, Shelley Duvall is Olive Oyl, Paul Dooley is Wimpy, and Paul L. Smith is Bluto. Williams, with the giant prosthetic forearms and constant sneer, absolutely nailed his Popeye impersonation. The production on the town of Sweet Haven is amazing too, looking like it's taken right out of the comics. Beyond all that, the movie's just funny. I'm not a huge Popeye cartoon fan, but I've always loved the movie. The movie happened because of another movie, Annie. Two studios were fighting over the rights to Annie, which was an adaptation of the Broadway musical based on the character, which was based on a comic. When the head of Paramount found out they lost Annie to another studio, he asked what comic characters they had the rights to, and someone said Popeye. They then took this comic and made it a musical to compete with Annie. Originally they wanted Dustin Hoffman as Popeye and Lily Tomlin as Olive. Gilda Radner was also a possibility. The film ended up being a 2-picture deal between Disney and Paramount, with the other film being the awesome Dragon Slayer. The movie had a wide release on December 12th, 1980. On a $20 million budget, It pulled in around $60 million worldwide. However, since it wasn't a blockbuster like the studio hoped, it was considered a failure, even though it pulled in a nice profit. 2 years later, the Annie film is finally released, and it only made $57 million on a $35 million budget. So while Popeye was seen as underperforming at the time, it outperformed the movie that was its reason for being made. Critics were harsh on the film. In 1981, it won Worst Picture at the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards, a competitor to the Golden Raspberry Awards. Time's been kind to the movie, and it's now seen as a beloved classic. Popeye got a 40th anniversary Blu-ray back in 2020. The movie looks great in HD, but there's only about 15 minutes of bonus features. The movie is available for streaming on Hoopla and Canopy. If you want to see this week's bonus entry or vote on future entries, please consider joining my Patreon. That's a brief look into 1980. Have a great week, everyone. I'll see you next time.
We don't need any 85-year-old actresses.
But she don't want to act. She says she thinks you made her pregnant.
I made her pregnant?
She said it was either you or Julius Erving of the Philadelphia 76ers.